Hello, and here we go again, Zwift number 67, bonjour, as we are in the middle of the Tour de France. We're going to be doing two laps around the Gentil 8, I'm going to pronounce it, and this is for the 270 to 390 group. You can see there's various different sprints here, which include the Sprint de Criteri early on. Then we've got the Ballon Sprint just before the Petite Com, which is going to be a real struggle for me. Then towards the end, we've got a Dostan Sprint and then the Sprinter Sprint. Hopefully I've not butchered those, but here's another look at the route where the flashing part of the map is located, and that's where you will get a better understanding of the route. So we've got the huge KOM 2/5 of the way through the course, and it's going to be a big struggle. We've got 60 riders entering. It's a 25.8 kilometer race. We're going to be doing 258 meters of incline, which is not my ideal sort of terrain, and it's going to be hard going up this climb. So as I said, 60 riders in the race. I think we dropped about 4 or 5 towards the start, and we were down to just over the 50 mark. I was able to work quite hard towards the start of the race, and it eased off after a kilometre. We're in this undulating terrain in France at the moment. You'll see all of the signage and road markings all kitted out for the Tour de France, or in honour of the Tour de France, so looks really nice at the moment. So just settled in really. Average watts 220, that's not too bad. Didn't feel too bad riding over the first few kilometres, and I was able to just settle in and find my space in the peloton. We initially started out in the Normandy Pens, and we're travelling anti-clockwise. We're going to be turning quick left so that we can create a figure 8. We go through 2 of the sprints that I've already mentioned before we head uphill. Here's the first of the sprints that we go through on a cobbled section, and not anybody really making much of an effort to complete the sprint, but there was one rider out the front, but he soon comes back to the main group. But I did have a bit of a panic at this point. You can see that it appears that I'd lost connection, so the only thing you can do is just carry on pedaling, but I do get distance temporarily, so you can see my watts kick up over 450, 500 there, just so that I can catch back hold of this front peloton. So that was a bit of a scare, but managed to sort the problem out. So back in with the group, right up at the front at this point. I popped my steamroller because we've got a slight downhill section there, and I'm also anticipating getting another power up shortly. So just wanted to make sure, I think it's at this banner here that we get another power up, so just wanted to take advantage of that. We were getting the steamroller power-ups and also the feather power-ups, so obviously the feather's going to help us greatly on the uphills, and the steamroller power-up is going to help us greatly on the downhill, because that, I don't know if it increases your weight or whether it just allows you to take everything out in front of you. I think technically it's a power-up to increase your weight, so it is used when going downhill so that you become more, you become heavier, so therefore you travel downhill at a greater speed. So here we are, 5 kilometres into the race. We are around about 50 riders now. There were a couple of riders distance in the last kilometre or so, but still got a big group. Names that I kept on seeing appear that you'll see here. There's a Grandpa Dave riding along. There's S. Shorland, who will be of note later on in the race. L. Himmerman, he rode against me on Friday night when I did a Zwift, Swedish Zwift racing race on Friday night. Can't remember if he won. I think he came first or second. I'm not sure, but he was certainly in the race. But there weren't that. There were only a half a dozen riders in the race, but he rode alongside me on Friday night. So we are getting close to the third sprint, where we go through the Ballon sprint, and this will take us up towards the Petite KOM, which is a zigzaggy section that is going to be a real struggle for me, but we'll see how we manage it here. So here we go through the next area. I chose not to use my feather at this point because we were on a relatively flat section, so just wanted to keep that feather for the Petite KOM. So we'll see how things go when we get to the bottom of the hill. We're not too far away. You'll see the castle in the distance sooner or later. I think it's off to the left, if I'm not very much mistaken. Saying that, I usually always say these things and then it'll probably be off to the right, but we'll see. I'm sure it is off to the left. I think we take this left-hand junction here, and we'll see the castle in the distance. Oh, there we go. Completely wrong again. We turned right. So, yep, heading up. Here we go. Here's the start of the climb. Perhaps the castle that I keep mentioning is what you could see behind that rock face that we've just seen on the left hand side. But I feel okay here. I'm up at my saddle. You can see my average watts are up around 300, so I'm working quite well here. But at this point I changed gear a little bit so that my cadence increases. You can see that it's up to around the 80 mark at the moment. There's the castle in the distance there. So that's where we'll end up going up over the top, on the top of the Petite KOM, and there's the rock face that I was talking about just before. So yeah, whilst talking about the top of the hill, you can also see now that I have been distanced. I'm back in 45th position. You can see how the group have just completely spread out, and I'm distanced. And I'm trying to keep up with Bruno Torres, who's a second ahead of me. Just ahead of him is Nico Egels, but there are a couple of riders around me now. Zudanak from Poland is just by my side as well. But just wanted to keep riding alongside the riders around me. I'm looking at all the gaps now. So what I'm looking at from previous experiences is that I don't want P Silver to catch me. He's a minute behind. I would expect riders like Spowage, who is 30 seconds behind me, and TB to also catch me. So I'm just going to keep an eye on them. But I zoom forward now, and I'm riding with some of the other riders. Here's Duilani, and he's right up at the front of the group. I also notice that Martin Tribe, Omni Rocker, is up with these front riders, and I rode with him in a previous race not too long ago. So, but just making sure I go back to myself, keep an eye on these gaps. You can see that Zudanek is 7 seconds behind me. S. Shoreland, he's 5 seconds behind, and they're all catching up with me really quickly. But I'm still keeping an eye. P Silver is a minute behind me. I need to be careful because there's a Petra Silver who is 2 places behind me, and he's 5 seconds behind. But I'm looking at P Silver, 58 seconds behind. Portuguese rider, he's about 7 places behind me at the moment. But just keeping an eye on the riders in front. You can see that Tim van Umering, he's a rider just in front. He's 18 seconds. I've already mentioned Bruno Torres, he's 21 seconds. And I also mentioned Nico Elges. They're the 3 riders ahead of me. but making sure that I keep an eye on TB, who's just right up behind me now. That's Tom B. He's just gone past me here. No, sorry, that's S. Shawland who's gone past me. TB is also just about to go past me. So you can see the banner at the top. This is the last section of uphill. It kicks up a little bit towards the end, and if TB goes past me, then I've got Petra Silva 15 seconds behind that, and he would be the person I'd be latching onto going downhill. So I don't really want to be slowing down enough to let Petra catch up with me. So I do put a bit of a burst in at this point so that I can catch back onto Shawland. Tom B comes past me as well, so just the last little burst up over the top, up out the seat in real life, and just pedal up over the top, turn to the right, and we start to drop down, and I've got those two riders with me. So my attempt now was to completely ease off. You'll keep an eye on my watts per kilogram, currently riding at 1.3 or 1 watts. It's jumping around slightly, but as Shawland goes past me, I also just take my feet off the pedals, and you can see now 0 watts. I'm getting a drink of water, toweling down, getting ready for the flatter section in a couple of kilometres. I didn't lose any time. I did have to just pedal a little bit from time to time, but you can see that every time I did pedal, I shot straight past the other two riders, which is not what I was trying to achieve. But you can see now Tim van Ummering, he's just a couple of seconds ahead, and I did think at one stage that I put a burst in. I think it comes up shortly, where I put a burst in and see if I can distance myself from the two riders that I'm close by, Shawland and Tom B. This is that point now, and I go straight past the two and straight past Tim van Ummering as well, with an attempt to try and gap from those two riders. But they were able to keep hold of my back wheel, and so that was unsuccessful. So we're looking pretty much at a group of 4 at the moment. There goes Tim van Ummering. So although I have caught up with him and caught quite a lot of time back up on him, he's now able just to settle back in and follow us down. We've got another rider in front who is 6 seconds. That's Bruno Dures, who I've mentioned a couple of times. There goes Tom B. Here comes Shawland in the green, who's just popped his steamroller power up. So here we go. We've got quite a few riders. Petra Silva is 22 seconds behind. So all in all, with that incline, although it was one huge burst, which doesn't suit my riding and my weight of 92 kilograms, I didn't feel as though I did too bad. Yes, I got distance from all the front riders, and that's nothing unexpected for me, but I wasn't completely on death's door as I was riding up that hill. I know I changed gear and moved up a few gears and just increased my cadence and got my wheels spinning a lot quicker, so I wasn't pushing as hard, but didn't feel too bad by the time I got to the top. I think my heart rate was only around the 160 heart rate, which you can see it's in a similar point at the moment as we start to go up the intestines, obviously named due to the way they look. So yeah, on this section here we had it was quite undulating. You can see that here's a section of slight uphill, but at the same time as saying that, around about 10-15 seconds later we're pedaling back downhill, and there's a lot of the intestines are like that, so don't mind this section at all and felt really strong. I was able to push on and put the power down periodically and then still get some recovery in so that I could stay nice and strong. But here we go again, just panning through the rest of the group. No idea at the moment how far ahead they are of me. You can see various riders here that I'm concentrating on, just checking to see how they're all getting on, wanting to make sure that I'm not going to lose my space whilst I'm panning forward to watch the other riders, because 2-3 months ago, every single time I panned forward to the front of the group, I would lose places and get distance from the riders that I rode alongside. But on this occasion and some other occasions recently, I've been able to hold my position whilst panning through the group, so that's quite pleasing, because I'm sure the people aren't just watching the videos to see how I'm getting on. They probably would like to see themselves, and that's what I try and do towards the latter stages of these races. I then send a link to all the other people competing in the race, so that if they want to watch the video back, they can do. So I am able, at the end of this race, to film most of the finishers in front of me. I certainly got the finishing group of around about 12 riders who crossed the line first, and their sprint towards the line. And I then panned through the rest of the group. Perhaps missed a couple of people, but I tried to film as many people as they came up towards the finish line, and various other people's little mini races and how they panned out. So I'll try and report on those as well. But we've got our own little group here of 5. We've been joined by Petra Silva, who's done a good job in hauling us back in. Nico Elgus, he's 25 seconds ahead, so it doesn't look like we're going to catch him. So yeah, we're getting closer and closer to the finish line. 7.4 kilometres to go. We've done 217 metres of incline. We're going to be doing 258, so we've got about another 40 to go. So still a few undulations to go, but nothing too serious. Just little short, punchy inclines over these rolling hills through the French scenery. So yeah, here we go then. So just keep an eye on what's going on. I think I pan through again shortly, and just to check on the rest of the riders in front, because I'm aware that they must be getting close to the finish line. Bruno Durez, who was riding alongside us, has dropped back to 30 seconds behind, so it doesn't look like we're going to get caught by anybody, and it doesn't look at the moment as though we're going to catch hold of anybody in front. The closest person in front at the moment is Nico Elgas, who I've been mentioning from time to time. But it was a nice race, and I felt reasonably strong. You can see my average watts are now currently at 226. My heart rate is at 160, which is a little bit high. We go through another banner area. This was the finish line for stage 1 that we did last week with the Allez Allez races. So just making sure that if there are any breaks, which it looks like there is one here now with the front 2 riders of Tim van Ubering and Tom B. They look as though they're making a push for it, so you'll see that I also increased my watts so that I can just catch hold of them and just make sure that they don't get distance. But I ease off. Some of the riders were quite clever about not ever leading this little mini group of 5. Petra, who I've ridden with and against before, Petra Silva, he was often out the back behind us. He didn't appear to make any attempts to lead that group. But here we go, just moving through the rest of the groups. We'll get an understanding of how far they get to go. They are 23.5 kilometres in, so I had to do some calculations. I jumped back to myself because I'd forgotten how far the distance of the race was. So 21.5, 4.2 to go, so that's going to be 25.8, which we have mentioned. So I was just doing some calculations there, so worked out that they still had a couple of kilometres to go, so I didn't need to go back to them right away. But I will get back to them to watch them crossing over the finish line. But I was working hard. My average watts at this moment, don't actually show that I am working extremely hard, but into the last few kilometres and I wanted to keep the power up so that I could hopefully finish ahead of these other riders. So here we go, we'll start moving through the rest of the riders at this point in an attempt to get them coming up to the finish line. We come up and we follow Seaburger for a little bit, and there's only 0.7 of a kilometre to go. So just keeping an eye on where Seaburger is. He's actually shuffled back a little bit. His position is jumping around a lot. I'm not entirely sure how many are in this final group. It looks about 15 riders. So currently watching Seaburger whilst we get round these two left-hand bends, and the finish line is just ahead of us. So here we go, watching Wesley Polder following Brandon Thies over the line. Then we have Himmerman, who I mentioned before, rode the other night. And then I pan back to us, but making sure that I can still catch some of these other riders. So here we've got Jonathan Eller, who I think eventually finished in around about 30th position. He's got a couple of riders just behind him, 2 or 3 of them. So let's see how Jonathan Eller gets on against these other riders. So there we go, Fennelly's bombed straight past him, as well as Dimitriadis. And he's unable to catch back hold of them. Just behind them, a few places back, we have Goyce Anderkant. Then we have Scott Rance. Scott's got a 7-second gap between him and the rider in front, so he's not going to be able to do anything about that. And then a couple of riders between Scott and ourselves, and potentially we're going to miss those out as I focus in on our last 7.7 of a kilometre. So I'm out in front, so I've done well there whilst trying to scroll through the different riders. I've been able to maintain my position. Probably not the ideal thing for me to do because everybody's taking advantage of my draft. You can see that my watts are up over 400 now as we do those 2 left-hand bends. Tom B goes past me at this point, then also Petra, and also Nico Elgas, and eventually Shorland and Ummering all go past me, so I finish back in 45th position, but didn't feel too bad. Quite an enjoyable ride, didn't mind it too much. But here we have the final results. We have Brandon Thies over the line in 40 minutes and 22 seconds, averaging 3.1 watts. Then we had Wesley Polder, who was just a second behind in second. Then in third, Seaburger. Fourth, we had Gert Gagiano. Then in fifth position, A. Hinterleitner, and still only just 2 seconds behind. So then sixth, we had Martin Tribe Omni Rocker in sixth position. Then we had 3 Mark DW6, followed by in 8th position Jeff W, only 3 seconds behind the leader. Then in 9th John Sadler, and 10th D Giuliani. So yeah, they all did well. I'm not sure where 11th was in regards to if he was in that group right up the front. It appeared that there were plenty of riders there. So yeah, real tight finish for the lead riders, all with Zwift racing scores up and around 350 at least. So hope you enjoyed watching it, hope you gained something from watching it, and if you're going to do the ride or the race later on in the week, just be prepared for the Petite KOM. Hopefully you've enjoyed watching it, and by showing your appreciation, popping in a subscribe or a like. And I will catch you again Friday night, where I'm likely to be doing a Zwift crit race. I think that's the plan at the moment, Friday night, and then we'll take it from there really. But thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed it, and catch you all again soon. Thanks.